Today's video I'm going to show you how to make these really cute slow stitch origami butterflies. Hi everyone, Sarah from Homfray Embroidery. So if you've not discovered the delights of slow stitching yet, we've got a whole playlist with lots of videos on what it is and how to do it and why you should do it as well, and some projects you can have a go at. So check out this video up here, that'll get you started, tell you all about what it is and why you should be doing it, because it's a really wonderful technique to do. So I thought we'd do something a bit different today, and we're going to do a bit of slow stitching, but we're going to turn it into one of these lovely butterflies. So you don't need many materials from this, and it's great for using up your little scrap. So you just need a base fabric that's going to go on the back of the butterfly. I've got a little rectangle of it here. It doesn't really matter what size it is. This one is 10 by 7 centimetres. That's 4 by 3 inches. The ones I'm going to show in a second are a little bit bigger than that, but as long as it's a rectangle, you can see that compared to my hand, how big that is. The butterfly will come out half of that size, so that's quite a good way of determining how big you want your rectangle. So that's going to be the backing fabric, and then I've got some little scraps here that I found. I've sort of just colour coordinated these in a purple theme. You can do whatever theme you like, doesn't matter, you can mix them all up. This is a little one I showed you at the beginning, so you can see all the different colours on that one, so you can have fun playing with your colour combinations for this one. And we're just going to layer some fabrics up basically on top of that. So we're going to make another layer of fabric. So if you want to know more about this, check out that slow stitching video I mentioned at the beginning, because we're just going to make a little collage of these scrap fabrics. These are just left over for some patchwork projects and some dressmaking projects, whatever you've got lying around. And you can use up the really small bits. It's really great for just using up those little scraps. Don't throw them away. You can always use them for slow stitching. And I just want to cover the whole of the base fabric there. You can have a little play around and you can move things around. You can put different pieces on. Spend a little bit of time doing this. I'm going to do this quite quickly because I want to show you how to make the butterfly. So I want to make sure I've covered the whole of the background. So as I said, spend some time doing that. Just iron the pieces as well so you can see whether they fit or not. If they come over the edge, just trim them to shape. It needs to be the same size as that background fabric. And then I'm just going to pin those in place. So put quite a few pins in at this stage. You want to hold all these little bits of fabric down so that nothing's going to come out when we start to stitch it. So I've got quite a few pins in there, and what I'm going to do is just baste that together. Now you can start slow stitching with all the pins in it, but they stick in your fingers and then you get cross with it, and that's not the point of slow stitching. The point of slow stitching is nice mindful practice, and you can just think about the stitching and not worry about sticking a pin in your finger. So we're going to baste it together first. And I've just got a normal sewing cotton that I'm going to use. This one you just use in a sewing machine. Nice strong cotton. We're just basting it together. This is going to come out later. So I put a knot in the end, and then I'm just going to start on the back. We can start in the corner. I want to sew all of these fabrics in place with my basting stitches. I can do nice big stitches, but I just want to make sure that I get everything sewn down so that it's not going to flap around or fall off or move when I do my slow stitching on it. So where those ones all meet there, I'm going to come up inside that one. I'm going to go down into that one there. So I'm just sewing them all together. You can take the pins out as you get to it, right up to the corner, round those edges. And then I can jump across. You see that bit sticking up there. I can just put a stitch down into that, come up down here. So I recommend you do quite a few stitches at this stage. You really want this to be a nice piece of fabric, all held together without the pins in. So I won't do all of that now because I've got one that I have already basted, so I'm going to show you that one. So this one I've actually finished that stitching, so different colour set, just so you can see the sorts of things that you can do with this. Just want to mention at this point, if you don't have lots of little scraps of fabric, but you've got maybe some nice few nice bigger ones, you can just do a plain piece on the top. You don't have to do the slow stitching with the lots of collaged pieces. You can just do two nice pieces of fabric together, put a plain one on the back there and a nice one on the front. So, and you can just do your stitching on top of that. You don't need to do the layers if you don't want to, but it is quite a nice and fun way of using up those little pieces of fabric. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start my slow stitching. Now you can use any thread you like for this, any embroidery thread. You can use a stranded cotton. I suggest 3 or 4 strands is probably good for this. I'm going to use a perlé thread, so that's a twisted one, but you could use a woolen thread, you could use a linen thread, anything you like will work on this absolutely fine. you delve in your stash and see what you've got. You don't need to buy special things for it. So I've just got some perlé thread. This is a number 8, I think. Nice weight for this kind of stitching, and I like a perlé thread because it doesn't untwist. With the stranded, you have to make sure you keep your strands together at the same tension, but perlé is really nice for doing slow stitching because it just takes away something else that you don't have to think about and you can just enjoy the stitching. Now, the best way to start these is just to do a running stitch. I'll go all the way around the outside, fairly close to the edge, and that will just hold the whole thing together around the edge, and we can have a little bit of a play in the middle. So super easy. I'm going to start my thread between the 2 layers like that. I've got a knot in the end of it, so I'm just going to come inside that, bring my thread out, make sure my knot is hidden inside those 2 layers because we're going to see some of the stitching on the back, so we don't want the knots showing on the back. And then I'm just going to start doing a running stitch. Don't worry about it being super neat. This is slow stitching. It's about the feel of the fabric and the feel of the thread. And just enjoying that action of stitching, not worrying about how neat it is and how tidy it is and am I doing it right or is it wrong and am I allowed to do this. Don't need to worry about any of that. We can just enjoy playing with the fabrics and the threads and a few stitches. While I go around this, I just want to say a thank you to our channel members and our patrons supporting us every month as you do. It's much appreciated. Thank you so much. If you're interested in joining either of those, you can see details about that in the description below this video. And also to those of you who click the super thanks button, which looks like this, showing your appreciation for videos that you have enjoyed and you have liked. Your donations are greatly appreciated. They go back into equipment and materials for making the videos. So your names are appearing at the bottom of the screen now as I do some stitching. So thank you very much to you all. So I'm just going to work all the way around the edge, and I'm just catching in where I've changed the fabric there. Just make sure you catch that edge in so it's nice and secure, so when we fold the butterfly we haven't got anything coming off. It's all nice and secure. So I'm just going to go all the way around the edge like that, and then we'll have a look at a different stitch. So when you come to finish your thread off, just go right up to that first stitch that you did. Go right up to there. I'm going to go down into that bit of fabric just to hold that in place. And if I flip it over on the back, all I'm going to do to finish it, just to hide the end of the thread, is go back into that fabric between the layers. So the needle doesn't show on the front, so between the layers just come out at one of the stitches, and that's fine just to end that thread. That won't come undone. We can just cut that off, and then we just bin around the edge with a nice running stitch all the way around the edge just to hold those edges in place. This is a good time to tidy up the edge. If you've got anything that's just sticking out over the edge a little bit, just give it a trim so you can just see that one's just coming out over the edge. So just giving that a little tidy up, because it's much easier to fold the butterfly up if you've got a nice clean clear edge around your rectangle. So just take a moment to tidy up the edges if you need to. Okay, so we're going to add some more stitches in. So we want to get all of these little pieces sewn down with something. So any stitch that you like, we want to make sure they're nice and secure. So when we finish stitching, we take the basting stitches out, nothing's going to fall off. Now you can use whatever stitching knowledge you have at this point. If you know lots of different stitches, you can have fun trying those out. If you don't and you're new to stitching or you're new to slow stitching, we do have a video on 5 stitches for slow stitching, really suitable for beginners. I'll put that up in the playlist at the end, so go and check that playlist out for those. Or you can just do a running stitch if you like. You can just running stitch through that the whole thing, whatever you fancy goes, and I'll show you another one that I've done in a second. So I'm just going to start a little bit more, and I think I'm going to go down the edge of this piece here just to show you that. So again, a knot in the end of my thread between the 2 pieces of fabric, so that you can't see the beginning on the back, can't see any knots or anything like that. Knot will hide inside those stitches. So I could do anything down here. I could do a feather stitch, I could do a herringbone stitch, or I can just do a little satin stitch. Super easy and a great one for covering over the edge. So I'm just going to pick a little bit of that one up, a little bit of that one up, and go all the way down that edge like that. Not worrying about how long they are, whether they're the same angle, just enjoying the stitching. Change my colour, you know, you could change the type of thread you use as well. You can do all sorts of different things with this. I'm going to go right to the bottom. Like so. I've got quite a bit of thread in there, so I could just carry that on if I wanted to, through to the back, and I could come up here this way and I could do a little herringbone stitch along here, just covering up the edges where one fabric meets another one, stitching over that just to make it nice and secure so it doesn't come undone. You could just go around the shapes with a running stitch, lots of different things you can do. A little herringbone stitch there. Like so. So you can keep changing your stitches, you can keep changing your threads, or you can do it all in one stitch on one thread if you want to. So I'm not going to do any more on that because I'm going to show you a finished one so I can show you how to fold your butterfly. So here's a little blue one that I made, different colour scheme now, just again so you can see how I've mixed those fabrics up. Don't worry about it being symmetrical. It's slow stitching, we don't need it to be symmetrical. Just have fun playing with your fabrics. So I'm just going to go over the stitches that I've done on this one. So there's my running stitch around the edge, in the middle, all the way around the edge, and then a couple of the pieces I've just done the running stitch around those as well, just to hold them on there. There's a little bit of that satin stitch that I've just showed you, just going over the edge where it might fray. Just put some stitches over there and again down there. Bit more running stitch around this one, bit of satin stitch into running stitch. Got some cross stitches in there, you can see those, just sort of filling in that space. There's a bit of feather stitch down here. This dark blue one's a nice one to do over the edge of something really beautiful, decorative stitch over the edge. We've got a little bit of buttonhole blanket stitch, open buttonhole, so blanket stitch there going over the edge, a little bit of herringbone down here. I've got some detached chain stitches here, so you can really add in anything you like depending on what knowledge you have. You could use it as an opportunity to learn some new stitches, or you can just stick to the ones that you know if you want to. And then I'll just show you what it looks like on the back. So I picked a nice pattern piece for the back of this one because we will see some of the back when we fold the butterfly, but you can just see the backs of the stitches here. So I've pretty well got stitching on nearly all of it. So that makes a really nice firm piece of fabric to make our butterfly out of. So once you've done all of your stitching, you can cut your basting stitches out. So the easiest way is just to get your scissors underneath the thread on the back, just snip it, and you can just start pulling all of those basting threads out from your piece. Make sure you get all of those out, just double check it, make sure it's all stitched down. If there's something that's not quite fixed down, you can put some more stitches in. So when you've done that, it's ready to fold up. So we're going to do some origami folding now and turn this into a little butterfly. It's only 5 folds, so it might look a bit complicated at first, so I'll do it slowly, and then you can pause the video if you want to and just check a fold. There's only 5, so I'll start with the first one, super easy one. So we're going to turn this round so it's facing me, so it's upright like that. Then I'm going to turn it over so your stitching's flat down on your surface. Easiest to do this on a nice flat surface, don't do it in the air, put it on a nice flat surface. So all I'm going to do is fold it in half, like so. You can just do a little finger crease on this, you don't need to iron it or anything like that, because if it was paper you'd be doing a nice sharp fold, so just a little finger crease on that. Now what we're going to do, so that's fold number 1, so fold number 2, we're going to take the bottom right corner to the bottom left corner. So you just put your finger, well, put your thumb on it actually, it's the easy way, thumb on it there, and I'm putting my finger just in the middle, roughly in the middle, because that'll help with the next bit. I'm going to grab that top layer, that top corner there, and I'm just going to fold it back to the bottom left corner. So bottom right corner to bottom left corner, put your thumb back on it, and you can see this sort of shape here. Stick your finger inside it, just push out that point. You can see now I put my finger on there, so that just makes that nice sharp point. I'm going to press that flat and just finger press that. And what's important at this stage is that this gap here is the same all the way across, so this is level. You don't want it at an angle like that or like that. You want it nice and level. This crease comes down here, that distance is equal to that distance. Try and fold it as carefully as you can so you get nice symmetrical butterflies. So you can just press those flat. So we've got that shape. I'm going to flip the whole thing over. So finger in the top corner, thumb in the bottom, and again just grab that top layer, bottom corner, so the top layer but the bottom right hand corner, flip it over onto the bottom left hand corner, makes that triangle shape, put your finger in it just to push that out, press it down flat in the middle, and then you can just crease those again with your finger and your thumb. So then you've got that shape. It's got two kind of little legs. What you need at this point is a gap in the middle. If you don't have a gap in the middle, stop the video, rewind it a bit and just double check that fold. Just make sure that you have got that gap there. So then what I'm going to do is going to flip the whole thing over so the point is facing towards me. So this is fold number 4. I'm going to take top right corner. I'm going to point it at that bottom point of the butterfly. Now you can either do that there, and if I squash it flat, you get that effect, or you can just pull it out a little bit to the right, and that will form the bottom wing of the butterfly. And then if I press that flat there, that little triangle shape, you get an upper wing and a lower wing. So you can choose where you fold it. I'm going to use these little quilting clips. These are really good for this. You can just pin it if you don't have any of those. Just put a pin in here. You want to hold that wing in shape, so if I let go it will all pop open. So I'm just going to put a clip on that there. We're going to do the same the other side. I'm going to try and get it symmetrical again. So top left to the corner, just pull it out from the corner so it makes that shape. Try and make it the same as the other one. You can press that fold down in the middle there, and we'll just put our clip on here. The edge of this wing is kind of vertical, but it doesn't have to be. Just make them look the same would be my suggestion. And I just put another clip, and you can see our butterfly. As easy as that. So just 5 folds. Just stop the video and rewind that if you just want to double check those folds. Now if you want to, at this stage, you can add some little antennae on. So like this little chap's got here, got some little wire antenna. You don't have to put these on if you don't want to, but they look quite cute. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to make those. So you'll need some wire. Some jewellery wire is good, something a little bit stiff, nothing too fine, because you want them to sort of support themselves. So this is a 24 gauge beading wire. I've just got a gold one. And then all we're going to do, not even going to measure it really. Just going to fold that in half, see how much I want roughly. Cut that with some wire cutters. Don't use your best embroidery scissors for that, because you'll blunt them. So I've just got that little V shape there, and if you think that's too long, you can cut that down a little bit. It's a couple of inches, I guess, 5 centimetres, something like that on each side. And then I'm just going to curl the ends over. That's a bit sharp. So I've just got some round nose pliers here, and I'm just going to roll the end. So you grip them in the ends of the pliers, just keep turning, and that makes that little round curl on the top. Like so. If you want to get a bit fancy and put a bead in there, you can as well. Just spread your bead on and then curl your wire over to trap your bead on there, so you can put some beads on as well if you want. I'll just keep it nice and simple for now. That's all there is to it. I've made those at this stage because we're going to sew the butterfly together and we can put the antennae on at the same time. So we're going to sew him together so we can take the clips off and he's not going to spring apart. So I'm going to use a perlé thread for this. I'm using a nice bright one because we're going to see some of these stitches, so we'll make the stitches decorative. Put a knot in the end, anywhere you want to put a knot in the end, and I'm just going to start by sewing them together at the top here. So I'm going to take my needle underneath this triangle on the top wing here, underneath there, into that point and out there like so. So you pull that through. So that knot is going to hide in that fold of fabric there. So, and then I'm just going to do a couple of stitches over to here. So I'm going to join those 2 points together where those wings have been folded. So over to there, and then I'm going to come back to this side and put a little stitch in there, like so. It's joining together, so just do a couple more, one more to the left side, over the top, one more to the right side. That's going to make that nice and secure. So that's sewn that top bit together, that's not coming undone now. So if we flip him over, now what I want to do is to sew down this back part here, so this isn't like a little pocket. So I'm just going to take the same thread, little stitch, just pick up that back fabric there. That's going to go over the top like that. We'll go back in again, do another stitch over that. So just each point where you need to sew the folds together, just a couple of stitches over each point. Let's do one more over there, make sure that's really nice and secure. There we go, so the back's on, the top's nice and tight together. So this is a good time to put the antenna on. Now you do have to be careful you put them on now, your thread doesn't get caught up in the wire, so you can do it later if you want, but it's quite good to do it now while we've got the thread all threaded up. So I'll show you how to do it now, but you can do it at the end if you want to. So I'm just going to put that in place. Actually, what I'm going to do first is pinch that together. So pinch the bottom together like so, we can bend them back to shape later. It's a little bit fiddly do it and show you on the camera, and then I'm going to put them in place there. So I'm just turn that around so we can hold it. So just putting the little loop a bit further down, don't do it right at the end here because they end up wobbling around, so just a little bit further down, and I'm going to stitch over that, put the needle in and then show you where I've put the needle. So I've gone underneath those 2 pieces of wire. I'm going back over the top and back underneath them. So I'm going to go round those 2 pieces. Right, you can see it start to hold that in place. So go all the way to the bottom with your stitching. Over and over, bind that in really nice and securely so these antennae don't fall off. And you need to do one more thing. So if I pull that up now, that will just slip straight out of those stitches. So where that loop is underneath, I'm just going to do a little stitch through it into the fabric. Another one there, just to make sure I can't pull those out the top. Really nice and secure, and if you just want to do one final one over the top, you can. There we go, nice and secure, not coming out. We'll bend those later, so don't worry about them now. So I'm going to carry on with that thread and sew the rest of the butterfly together. So I'm going to flip him back over again. I just brought my thread back to the top because what we're going to do now is sew around here. So I'm just going to move that clip, I'm going to move it to down there. So we want to sew this wing, front wing to the back wing. So I need to get my thread from there out into this point here. So I'm just going to slide it underneath that fold. So I'm going to take it in there and it can go along this fold here. I'll try and get it out in the corner. So this is going to be a little bit fiddly, but just, there we go. So needles just coming out there. I'm going to use some pliers at this point because this can hurt your fingers a bit. So I'm just going to grab it with the pliers and pull it through. So that's now coming out in the top wing. If you find that a little bit tricky, you could finish a thread off and you could start a new thread up in here if you want to make that a little bit easier just to pull through. So we're going to do the same thing now. I'm going to attach that bit to the back bit. So just a couple of stitches over. So take the back wing and the front wing, 1 stitch over, 2 stitches. That's enough to hold it. It's just to hold that in place. We can take that clip off now that we've done that stitch there. I'm going to do the same down here because you can see how that's flapping open. So I'm going to put 2 stitches across here. So I need to travel my thread from here down through that fold to about here. I'm taking it through that seam, poking it out there so you can't see that needle on the top. Just take it through the fold of fabric. It's a little bit easier. Now I can do 2 little stitches there, so just pick up that front wing, back on yourself, around there a couple of times, like so. Just put it the right way up so you can see how that's all holding itself in place now. It's stitched there, it's stitched there, and it's stitched there. He's nice and secure, he's not going to come unfolded. We're going to do the same on the other side, so I'm just going to travel that thread across to there. You can just go right through the middle of this bit here, right across there, and I'm going to do my 2 little stitches there, my 2 little stitches there, and then I can finish my thread off. Okay, so just sort his antennae out. We'll just give him a little curve on that. Just bend it with your fingers into position. Really nice like that, and then you can make him into some different things. So you can put a little brooch back on it if you want to. You can just sew one of those into place on the back there. You can wear him as a little brooch. You could put him on a hair clip. I've got a hair comb there. I could sew that hair comb along the back there, and he could go my hair. Could wear my hair. So all sorts of different things. You could sew it onto a bag, you could sew them onto a jacket. They'd look fabulous all the way down the back of a denim jacket or something like that, or a little spray of butterflies. So you've just got a couple there to show you just what they look like in the different colours with the different antennae. So I hope you enjoyed that. These are super fun to make. They make great presents too. So if you want to check out a bit more about slow stitching, you're not sure what that is, you're new to that, check out this playlist up here. Lots of videos on slow stitching in there. Give this video a thumbs up if you've enjoyed watching it. I'll see you next time.